I'm here in Hawaii on Oahu. I'm standing outside of one of the most amazing recording studios in the whole world, Island Sound Studios. And we're about to pop inside the store and get a full studio tour from the owner and manager, Kyle Spicer. Let's check it out. Kyle.
Hey, Josh. Good to see you, buddy.
Man, good to see you.
Welcome to Island Sound Studios. Come on inside.
So we got a view.
Yeah, welcome. Everything on this side of the door is us. Our boat and our dock. It's a little extra special for those musicians that want to be recording in Hawaii, on Hawaii, like legitimately in Hawaii.
So you got paddle boards, you got surfboards, you got a jet ski, and a pontoon boat.
The occasional pufferfish and barracuda will come by. Well, we are in Honolulu, Hawaii. This is Hawaii Kai to be exact. We're at Island Sound Studios, and I would say it's the most exotic studio in the world, especially in the modern world, for sure.
So you and your brother founded the most recent incarnation of the studio, is that right?
Yeah, it's we didn't change the name. It's Island Sound Studios. This would have been called for about the last 10 years. Couldn't think of a better name that you want to keep the mojo anyway. So we just kept it the same.
And then how big is this building?
It's about 10,000 square feet, 2 stories on the water. There's Studio A, which has like one ISO booth. It's weird because it has the biggest SSL ever installed, so it's a 112 channel 9000J console. But it's only got one ISO booth, so it's great for mixing and overdubs, and if you want to put out a bunch of synthesizer tracks and stem them out on the board. Sounds amazing. You can't get the 9000J sound anywhere but a 9000J. And upstairs we have a 96 channel 9000J, but it's got 4 ISO booths with a drum set, a grand piano, and that's for bands, and everybody can go on headphones, and we've recorded 10-piece bands with live vocal choirs, and all the rooms have a view out into the water, so you're not isolated in a cave, which you are in most studios, as anybody would know. It's rare to have natural light, especially the deeper you get into the studio. So for us, it's like during the daytime, I could turn the lights off and you could operate on natural light in there if you wanted. Just the glow from the board and the outboard equipment works fine. Yeah, why don't we go on inside, check out the studio. So this is Studio A. There's a lot of big records that have been made in the studio. Right now I'm doing some work on it so you can see a bunch of stuff out. But it's a 112 channel SSL 9000J. This is the largest one ever installed. I was told that they built a 120 channel, but it was never installed, so.
So largest SSL existing in the studio right now?
Yes,
wow.
That's what this is. It is completely unnecessary to have 112 channels, but what it does is it gives a ton of redundancy.
This board has been mixed on in its full capacity.
Oh yeah,
right?
this thing, this was built in the UK and installed here. This was never in any other studio. So this was when the building was built new. They built this and shipped it straight from the UK here.
How long did this whole facility take to build?
About 2.5 years, I think.
Wow.
What used to be a restaurant in the 80s, so it's in a shopping center, so that makes it unusual. But this particular place is on the water and it doesn't really have any frontage into the shopping center. It only has like one small corner. But they had to gut the inside and make it into a recording studio. So they spent a ton of money, many millions of dollars, gutting the restaurant that had to keep the outside, and all new concrete, plumbing, electrical, everything, a whole new redesign of the inside. The guy who had it built had a lot of money and wanted a spare no expense, state-of-the-art, anything you can throw at it studio, circa 1999. So it was right at the birth of real digital recording, where it was, where we were just about to go linear from tape. So there's remnants of that. There's digital tape machines here. And I mean like the big Sony 48-track digital machines, even though we do have some DA 98s as well if you want to have tape-based stuff. But then we have analog tape machines as well, 224 tracks, 2-track mastering decks. But the way it was built was the patch bay and everything still has Pro Tools in mind. And there's video patching throughout the studio and things that you would think of in the late 90s that you wouldn't have thought of in the 80s. You know, if you have a controller like this, that's all you need for Pro Tools for your transport, and then you can just run everything through the board or any of the outboard equipment, and then you're getting a full analog front end. And there's nothing digital about this board at all.
So this spot was built like right at the time when the whole music industry was going from analog recording, that evolution was moving into digital recording, right?
Yeah.
Pro Tools had just come onto the scene around then.
I mean, I remember, and I don't know if you remember back then, that Pro Tools was usually a guy. Like, you'd be in your recording session, you were recording to tape, because that's what you did. And then when you needed edits, you had the Pro Tools guy would come, show up at the studio, you pay him, he comes down and bring his portable Pro Tools rig, and he would edit what he needed to edit and then leave, and then he'd send you a bill. It started that way, where that was all about just editing capabilities. What it has that a lot of studios these days don't have is tons of effects processors and duplicates, because there weren't any plugins back then. So you would patch in all your reverbs and delays and phases, anything you needed to do, you would patch in from outboard into the board here, which you can still do. It's so much more colorful and so much more feeling that you get from using outboard equipment than using the plugin. The plugin, it's like, you know, if you just want to get a quick setting and then you take it and you want to go to another studio and open it up and use their version of the plugin, and it's going to sound exactly the same because it's on a computer. Yeah, you get exactly the same replica every time. But this is like, you know, I got an Eventide H3500 here, and I go upstairs, and I have one upstairs too, and it might have a slight quirkiness to it that makes the two sound different. It's the sum of its parts, the same as a signal flow, you know? So when you have things going through, your signal going through multiple pieces of gear, it's going to affect it, for better, for worse. But it's all music, so as long as you get what you're searching for out of it, then that's the right sound, right? You know, it's problem-solving space, and not everybody has the same problem to solve. Yeah. Studio A, I do a lot of voiceovers, overdubs. So I use a couple of Neves. I have a Focusrite that I mostly use for the DI stuff here. I have this Tube Tech, a two-channel tube preamp. I have this GML 4-channel, which is just really clean. And that's pretty much it for preamps here. Oh, if you turn right around, actually, I've got two more channels of Focusrite, the ISA 215 here, which is also clean. And then some awesome compressors as well. But I can use channels on the console as well as preamps, so I've got anything I need to get whatever flavor I'm looking for down here. Whether it's the cleanest voiceover, or I'll use a channel from the board where it just sounds super clean and crisp, no noise floor. Or I can go through the Neve. If I'm tracking lead vocals, I can have a C800G that we have and go through a 1073 and a CL1B, and boom, that's the vocal chain. And original Pultecs, an EQP1A, and the mastering 1A3Ss, and an MEQ5. Those are all original 60s and 70s gear.
As far as Studio A goes, in this room, like, who has worked in here and what records have been made in this space?
So there's been a lot of records made in Studio A, and this was a big hip-hop room. Kanye West has been here. He made 2 albums here, 808s and Heartbreak, and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. And he's worked with other artists here that he's produced. I think he worked with Common and John Legend here as well. Dre's been here a bunch of times. Hidden Secret, I think, for hip-hop royalty.
But it took someone with your caliber of tech skills, right, and to fix a lot of the gear, right? Because wasn't a lot of the gear in need of help when you guys first?
Yeah, the place was in shambles. It had been in disrepair for a number of years, and the owner didn't put any money into it, taking care of it. There was a manager here who was amazing, and he took care of the place, but he was underpaid, and he didn't have the power to, even though he put his own money into a lot of stuff. Just, that's Hawaii, right? Everybody's got a lot of pride for this place. Luckily, the equipment stayed. A lot of it, I think, was due to it had the locking screws that they put in with the special bits. This place had most of the equipment. Most of it was not working. It was not in here. It was in other rooms and other places. The mixing consoles hadn't been powered up in a few years at least. They just didn't work. The power supplies were dead on them. Yes, I ordered new power supplies. Atomic Instruments out of Detroit. They are amazing. They make boutique custom power supplies for older recording consoles because they still have the best sound. The main thing was the air conditioning to make the spaces comfortable, because you don't really think about that. But that was a big deal. Everybody who had been here knew that it was hot. So some of the artists, when they found out we were saving the place, were like, hey, we're saving the place. But like, oh, all right, did you fix the AC? Like, that was the first question. We're like, yes, we did.
So you first came in to start all that in, what was it, 2022?
Yes, October 2022.
So I feel like you made pretty good time, because it took you a year, right?
Yes, it took us 9 months. We didn't even have air conditioning for 9 months after that. I had to get, everything, new computers, software licenses, just make sense of what there's documentation and stuff here that I have, but there was no like people that built the place left around to say, oh, this is the rhyme and reason for this and that. So it's just taken me a lot of time to figure out what goes where and why that plug is there. What does this go to? The design of the studio was done by Studio Bauton, which is out of Santa Monica. They're now called Non-Zero Architecture. They've designed many big studios, including Hans Zimmer's complex in Santa Monica, DreamWorks Studios, a bunch of other ones. So they knew what they were doing from a design and acoustical standpoint when they built the place 25 years ago. Any major studio that was built a long time ago that goes through many hands and incarnations over the years, they always talk about the bones of the studio, and there's a reason why they go back to the recordings of the 50s and the 60s and the same spaces. It's because it matters, the sounds of the spaces and what's been in there. It's just it's like ghosts, right? Like ghosts of music past, because it's not dead people, it's just ghosts of creation, like these giant energy balls in studios that everybody then wants to come feel afterwards, right?
Yeah, the venues are like that in New York City, where you can feel the performances and the people who played in those rooms. You can feel the rooms that Hendrix performed in or John Coltrane. It's just got a buzz to it.
Yeah, it's like a studio, there's no reason to change it if it's not broken. For us, when we took it over and we bought everything in the building, and it came with the couches. All the big albums that have been made here are on those couches. So it's like we still have the original furniture. Right. And we figured if it made it through all those big hip hop sessions and just music in general, and they don't have any rips or tears, that they must be pretty durable. So who knows what's happened on all our furniture in the past.
You don't want to know.
You don't want to know. We cleaned them.
What about instruments here? I know you guys got a stockpile of keyboards, guitars, drums.
Yes, so we have the best of the old, best of the new. I don't know, there isn't anything good that's new these days, right? So anything new these days that's any good is recreations of something old. I guess that's cool. All of this stuff is very quirky, and it just makes for a fun-ass time when you're recording here. It's just amazing. I got the console up right now. The way I route it up here, which is I can showcase. Right now I have 32 channels, HDX in and out of Pro Tools, and I use the first 32 channels. That's the front end for Pro Tools, meaning I'm just using the line amps. I can run any preamp, and then I go into the line amp, and this is your trim into Pro Tools. And then the return from Pro Tools is the large fader. So it's like a tape machine, essentially, with Pro Tools acting that way. Over here, another 16 channels that I keep open. And then I can just use the routing matrix up here to send them over to whatever Pro Tools channel I need. And it makes it really easy to just record live bands. The direct inputs in the studio, and both studios, there's 120 channels of active DI behind their cadenza. Any keyboards, drum machines, anything that's just line level out, and I just plug it in behind there, and then boom, it's up on the patch bay right here. And then I just route it to whatever channels. Amazingly clean DIs. Have all the synths coming right up along the board, and then that automatically makes them right into Pro Tools. For what I found, it just makes it really easy to get in and start going. Last big session we had here, for instance, they were coming in a day early just to kind of get set up so they could start the next day. Within 20 minutes, it was like hit record. And with an even more complex setup, because I just kind of already had it. It was easy to plug in and have it routed so they could be creative, and it was like off. We were off to the races, didn't stop. I think that's the thing, just create no barrier between your creativity and capturing it.
Don't you have these Neve preamps over here? Can you tell me about those?
So since we can do live band recording up here, I've got 16 channels of Neve. They're Shep Associates clones. I've used them. I have 4 vintage 1073s, and they sound identical, except these actually have much more EQ usability, even though I hardly ever do. It's for recording drums. It's just like having a bunch of 1073s. I just use them to run a bunch of mics through them, and they sound amazing. I use them interchangeably with the two vintage Neves I have here.
They're the best for everything.
They are. They just sound
so good.
Yeah, the way the room's set up with the acoustics of this room and the other rooms, and with our selection of microphones, it makes it really, really hard to make something sound bad here. If it sounds bad, it's because that's what you're trying to do.
And what about the monitoring systems you guys got here? You got a few options, right?
Yeah, so we have, so for right now we have the Genelecs, which are tried and true. They sound great. I've refurbished them so they sound like the day they were built, with a subwoofer on the floor back there. I have these Amphions as well, which sound great. They're an amazing company out of Finland, I believe. I've been talking with them, and these are awesome. They're similar to the NS10s, but with a little more body to them. And then I have the custom-built monitors. They're not Asperger's, but they are close. They're TAD drivers, and it's 5.1, so we've got those and a center channel, and then subs below. I think a lot of big studios have some form of the mains that are built into the walls, but they just sound amazing. It's just like 5,000 watts of sound in this room is a lot.
If a band was going to track here, this would be the spot in the building, right? Can you show us the live room? Yeah, for sure. Come on this way. Still have some of the equipment from some of the last artists. We have guitars in the room right now. I just haven't moved them. And then this is one of our Studer mastering decks, 1/2-inch 2-track. So this is our live room. It's I don't know how big it is. It's pretty big for being in a shopping center. We have a couple drum kits, Fender Rhodes piano. We have a grand piano in here. And I am not a piano player, but this is a really nice Yamaha C3 that we got for recording, and it is tuned all the time and ready to go. And all our glass here is triple pane acoustic glass with 6 layers. Wow. So it's totally soundproof.
Yes. Well, it's for all intents and purposes soundproof. It's not isobaric, but like we track. I mean, I track multiple live bands here, and then you can see each other through there too if you have somebody on that side with the same sliding glass over here.
So you could easily rock an 8 or 10 piece band if you really wanted to. Yeah.
I've had 3-piece horn sections in here, percussion going in there with drummer and guitar player in here with his amp isolated, and then stand-up bass player over where the pinball machine is, and everybody was all looking at each other on headphones. Wow. Have some 60s Fender amps. That's a 68 Fender Princeton reverb. I have a 65 Vibrolux reverb too. It's all like the good desert island amps. We're on a desert island, so I got to get the desert island amps, right? It's a 68 Silvertone. It's a 71 Bassman amp with the twin JBL 15s. Wow. Custom build. This is a 67 twin reverb amp that at some point somebody cut off the cabinet and made it into a head. That's awesome. And I bought it this way, and then I modified it. You said you have a DW kit, and is there another kit? You mentioned drum kits. Yeah, we have a Yamaha Stage Custom. It is a Beechwood kit. It's a 24-inch bass drum, and it's full Bonham kit. Yeah, you could play. Sure, I'll play. So here's some of our mic collection. Lots of the basics, like the Sennheiser for drums. I have a few, like my prototype microphone that's kind of like a U87 here, my Spicer mic. These are 2 of our U87s. Here's the C800G, which every studio's got to have one. Here's my special U47 FETs, the Stevie Wonder mics I got from a friend in LA. These are from the early 70s, been used on a lot of famous recordings. So Stevie actually used the mic? These were used, they're U47 FETs, both from the same studio. My question was, well, what recordings were they used on? And the answer was all of them. I've used these on a lot of things, and they sound amazing. They're the best 247 FETs I've used, for sure. I got a C37A. I'll open it a little bit. Looks like the 60s in there. Microphone's in this case here. That's from 1961. You'd think that they would just figure out how to make things better, but microphones are kind of a funny thing. It's like some people might say, why do you need so many microphones? It's because they're all different. And, you know, sometimes you're recording a band, I'll have 30 microphones up.
Yeah. It's colors to paint with.
Yeah, exactly.
And as far as studios go, I mean, you guys are sort of the only game in town as far as Hawaii studios goes.
Yeah. It was part of the interest when the studio came across. When we came across the studio, essentially it came to us, and it was like, whoa, we need somebody to take this space over as is, because it's just a multi-million-dollar, over-the-top prototype recording studio from the ground up. This is the only commercial studio in the state of Hawaii.
Wow.
And all the big artists that came here would only have come to the state of Hawaii if this studio existed. Without this place, there's no other place for them to go here. Right. Of artists at a certain level. Of course, there's plenty of studios here in Hawaii. I wouldn't want to say that there aren't studios. There's a lot of studios, but there's no reason for anybody to build a place like this in Hawaii, especially anymore. But the fact that it's here makes it, it draws the bigger artists that need that kind of high-end, foofy space. On Saturdays, we've been having live artists come in here and play some shows, you know, it's like local Hawaiian artists like Henry Kapono, and it's been really, really fun, you know, something a little extra when we're not having recording sessions. I don't know if any other recording studio has a liquor license.
They all need one, though.
Right? That's true.
So you guys kind of flip the space between a performance space and just an artist lounge?
Yeah, pretty easy to, it's just wide open, and we just have a bunch of tables, and one night a week when we're not booked. Everybody in Hawaii Kai and out here seems to really appreciate it because it mostly seems to cater towards the locals out here to give them something else. In today's, what is this space doing here in a recording studio? So this space was originally set for to be lounge B, and it's still the lounge B for people when they're at the studio, but then we also on Saturdays do the same thing downstairs where we'll have somebody play acoustic up here, and it's called the Velvet Monkey Speakeasy, bar number 2.
Good to have 2 bars.
I know, studio with 2 bars.
So what do you guys have planned for the studio in the future?
Well, so far we're just getting more artists to come back. You know, we're out here on the island, so not every major artist lives in Hawaii. So I'm making them realize the place is open again and it's back to its glory and it's a viable place. It's already getting out, and we're getting some big artists coming back out. And also making it a spot for local Hawaiian artists, which is, it's been that way in the past, but we want to keep it that way now that it's up and running and give them a place to learn without having to go to a major studio in LA or Nashville or something. You can actually do that here.
Sure.
There's a lot of training programs out here for Hawaiian musicians and engineers and producers looking to get a leg up.
And where do people find you or the studio online?
islandsoundstudios.com. And you can click on any of the links in there to send us a message if you're looking to come book the studio, or if you're going to be in town at all, just hit me up and I'll give you a tour.
Cool. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for the full tour. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely, Josh.
Beautiful spot.
So great having you out here again. Josh comes out here every time he comes to Hawaii, which is, I'm sure maybe some people would say too much.
Too much. Never enough.
But only the people that are stuck in New York that can't come out here. Yeah, you never want to leave once you get here.
Yeah. Love it. So thank you again, man.